Come on. And we're back. Anthony. So great to see you, buddy. How are you?
I forgot what you look like, so I drew a picture of you.
That's absolutely beautiful. All right, everybody, stick around. We got a great one today.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Hey everybody, welcome to actually No Vacancy Live. That's Anthony Melchiori. I am Glenn Hausman, and I'm so excited that you chose to spend some time with us today. We've got live shows this week. We've got live shows next week, and we've got live shows leading into Thanksgiving because we're going to be around a little bit more. How are you, buddy?
Wow, I feel like it's been a year and a half since our last podcast.
Seriously, I can't stand it, but it was crazy. I was in Phoenix, I was in Palm Springs, I was at the hospitality show in San Antonio.
Was our last podcast our current guest?
No, it couldn't have been. Maybe. I'm not sure. We'll have to check back the database. I'm sure Dr. Producer Suzanne is already taking care of it. We'll find out. So, what a great couple.
What's going on in the world today? Anything special?
Get out the vote, baby. That's what you got to do. So I'm sure we'll be.
Did you vote yet?
I did. I voted at 9:30 this morning because I figured the morning rush would be gone, and also. Let's be honest. I'm in a nice suburb over here, so I just walked right in, voted, and left. It's not like when I lived in the city where you'd be like in Brooklyn. I'd be online for an hour or two.
Yeah, but I think they did a better job of early voting. In my neighborhood, this place has been open for weeks, and it seems like everybody I know voted already. My whole family voted way before today.
Agreed. I was doing some texting with people this morning. You know how I am. They were texting and I was responding. And they were all voted ages ago.
Yeah, and I already have a complaint in with the voting people because your name wasn't on the ballot, and I was very upset about that.
Well, I tried. I actually had the Supreme Court try to intervene on my behalf, but not even that worked. But what are you going to do? Maybe 2028 we'll have a show. All right, Cesar was last here on 9/3, and our last show was with Michael Blank on the 17th. All right, okay. Ready for today's show?
I'm born ready.
All right, we're gonna be serious for today's show, even though in lighthearted attitude, because the hospitality industry. Look at he's already walking away. He can't deal with today's difficult subject matter.
I had to close the door. Sorry.
So listen, we know what it's like being in the hospitality industry, right? We are subjected to going out all of the time, eating great meals, going to bars all the time, and it's great. But for a lot of people, it's not so great. And I'm pretty sure that the hospitality industry has the highest state of addiction that there is. And today's guest, I would never have known that he went through this challenge until he put out a book. I'm talking about Cesar Wurm and his book, The Powers of Addiction, Finding Freedom in Acceptance and Recovery. Cesar, welcome to the show. I'm so proud of you for what you've done. Not only going ahead and, dealing with this major issue in your life, but then being able to share that so other people could learn from it. So that's amazing feat, and congratulations on getting the book done.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's especially someone in your position. I don't know if I was in your position and if I had the same history you had, if I would have been so vocal about it. Matter of fact, knowing myself, I definitely wouldn't have been, because I would feel like people are judging me. I'm in this big position, and we probably need people like you to do it more than anyone because you have such a public position and you're so respected in our field. So, as Glenn said, kudos to you for being brave.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Cesar, I got to know you. You were already in recovery for a while, and it never occurred to me that you went through something that had the chance to really pull your whole life down and apart. You look like you're in great shape. The puffy picture of you here in the book, I was shocked by. And it's just amazing to know that someone could have had a whole other life and a whole set of struggles before we even got to know them. How are you feeling today, and where are you?
Oh, yeah, feeling amazing. It's interesting, to your point, when I look back, the journey that I've been through from before I attempted to get sober, then of course throughout the sobriety early stages can be very challenging. And especially today, I'm so grateful for where I am, in a place where, to your point, I can be, healthy from an emotional state, mental state, and physical, and have a little bit more clarity about who I am as a person, be able to look my family, my friends, my coworkers, and just feel good that whomever I'm being now, it's who I am and who I want to be. Of course, right, we all have tough days, so it's still not always just wonderful, but yeah, I feel so grateful
So,
to be here.
I want everybody to read the book, and we'll promote it at the end of the show again. But give us a like a synopsis of outline of where it started, and then where, and I'm sure, people in that situation have rock bottom. And so tell me like an outline of the journey.
And also, please be sure to share, because what I really loved about the book was the genetic medical component as well.
Yeah. So really, from my experience, it really started from an early age, meaning to your point, Glenn, I certainly have addiction issues in my family. So I, do have the genetic tendency, and that's what I speak about in the book. But then also from my environment that I was at, from my lack of emotional development by that environment. And for an example, at home, we never really opened up and shared how we're feeling or things that were exciting or bugging us. So I learned from a very early age to suppress and internalize all that. And then when I was 12, I lost my mom unexpectedly, and that really exacerbated the situation. And then I found really unhealthy ways to cope with it. And the easiest way for me was with alcohol. And so from a very early age, I was, consuming way more than what someone would consider, socially acceptable or normal. But to me, that was what I knew. And then it became just a normal occurrence until several years later, you start having little flashes of, hey, perhaps this is not normal, or perhaps I'm a little losing control here. But it's a long process, because one, that's all is part of your life, part of your habit. And to your opening, Glenn and Anthony, that's also part of our industry in a way, right? It's just how we do a lot of receptions, so that facilitates that. But then also when it really got to the place where I said, I had to acknowledge to myself that, hey, you have a problem and you need to do something about it. Otherwise, right, you're going to have major consequences. That was very frightening. That was very scary to me, that I had to.
And when was that? How long ago was that?
Oh, that was like probably 11-ish years ago or so, right?
So at that point, you were already executive, and you were pretty well-positioned executive in hospitality, correct?
Yeah. At the time I was, I wasn't. Yeah, I was already in a good place. Mm-hmm.
So you were in a day, in your 9 to 5, you were handling what you had to handle, and then when you were in another place, you were a different person.
Yeah, absolutely. And you become very good about hiding, right? And being able to manage and portray that image. Mm-hmm.
What really struck me, Anthony, is he would do things like go to the grocery store in the morning and make it appear as if he was buying breakfast for the credit card bills and stuff, but he would actually be buying like box wine and downing a bunch of that before going into the office.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So continue. And then kind of what was the catalyst for you to start moving forward?
Yeah, and then it's interesting. Life, you start giving you signs, right? And for me, that came in several manners, from physical, where you really start feeling the impact of the drinking, from everything from gaining weight to not feeling great, of course, and my blood pressure was higher, and so you start seeing that. But then also, thankfully, I have a wonderful wife that she also calls me and holds me accountable, and that was a very important part of my recovery, was having that accountability and that unfiltered love, in a way where I had my wife saying, "Hey, I even don't know who you are anymore," right? And she didn't know probably a tenth of what I was drinking, but she could see that, hey, Cesar's off, right? Something's not right with Cesar. And then also we have a daughter. She's 13 today, and at the time she was a toddler, and I start having flashbacks of my childhood where my dad, right, he's an alcoholic, and I remember reflecting on how unsafe I felt, and the fear, and then I said, I'm not doing right by her, right? I'm doing the same thing that I hold grudge against my father, and I'm better than that. I want to have a relationship with her. I want to be proud, and I want to give her the best chance she has of being the best possible person, and I owe that to her.
Yeah, you sure do. What I really think is really fascinating about this journey, Anthony, is that he approaches it in a lot of different ways. And you kind of got hit as a kid, so it was almost inevitable that you would wind up in this situation. You had the genetic disposition for it, which is as displayed by alcoholism within the family. Plus, that drinking behavior was shown as normal in there, which misaligned how you felt about alcohol, with an early relationship at age 8, first getting your first drinks. And then with the tragic passing of your mom at age 12, you had a trauma on top of that, which made you seek out ways to cope. And you had to cope because your dad was an alcoholic and not able to give you what you needed, although he always took care of your education and made sure you were taken care of in that way as well, which is really important. So you had all these things working against you, yet you were able to get through. Why do you think you have been able to do that when so many continue to struggle? And from what I saw from the book, is you only had one notable setback, and it wasn't even that bad of a setback. What many others have to deal with.
What was the setback?
Yeah, there was a relapse that I had, when I was kind of 6 months sober. Because it's interesting, right? I think to answer both questions there, I think part of what is really conflicting, and I struggle up to these days, is that whenever you go through addiction, you develop a great deal of resilience and a great deal of the ability of adjust and navigate things, which it's supporting your addiction. But if used in the proper way, it can be really big strength in your life and be used for good. So I think, Anthony, to answer your question, was like I was starting to shift that, right? Like, okay, so I'm using that to sustain my addiction, and now I gotta rely on that to kind of focus and get my life in order. And then through that transition, there was probably a year period or so where, like, I knew, hey, I have a problem, but I am I really like, an alcoholic? Do I really have a serious problem where I can never have another drink? So I had that
like that in that stage still.
Yeah.
So
So I
what
was
was
in
the?
that. Mhm.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, so I was in that stage where I was kind of conflicted, right? I said, what do you mean I can never have another drink, right? Perhaps I can just drink on weekends or have one beer and drinking 10 glass of water. And then, until I got to that 100% certainty, that's when, right, that last relapse happened. And it was interesting because that was the first time that I called my wife, Laura, and she knew immediately, right? So 6 months sober, and she knew immediately. She said, "Did you drink?" Just when I said hi, and of course, I would always lie. And at that time, I said, "Yes, I drank." And she said, "Listen, I know that you're really trying. We're in this together, and we're gonna figure this out, right?" So it was the first time our interaction was. First, I was truthful, and then second, like, was that understanding and that support that gave me that peace that, like, okay, I'm not alone in this. I put all my cards on the table, and we're gonna figure this out.
So, and that's beautiful. I actually got teary when you said that your wife was like, "We're in this together," because there's nothing, and in those vulnerable moments, there's nothing more powerful than that. Where was it? And again, um, I know it's in the book, but where you were like the first time you took the step, and I don't know what your step was, AA or whatever it was.
Mhm.
What and was it a based on, uh-oh, it's starting to leak out. Not only my wife's starting to see it, but now at work it's starting to see it, or I made a fool of myself, or I did something, and now you're embarrassed, and you're like, uh-oh, I got to get control of this because now it's affecting other parts of my life that have real consequences.
Anthony, you sure you didn't read the book? Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I
you're
have the book. I have the book. I skipped around it. I'm going to read it though. Go ahead.
yeah, you're spot on. It was really a combination of all these factors, right? Where you start seeing, oof, it's too many things where I'm start seeing this is not normal. That is really kind of getting out of control. That my wife turned to me and said, "Hey, I even don't recognize you who you are anymore." So you start getting all these different messages in little bit and pieces, and then you say, "Okay, I really gotta do something or open up myself that this is not right." And you're right. And then I don't remember exactly when was that, but my first step was to actually, to your point, attend an AA meeting. And it was interesting. The first few times I went there, oh, I had so much prejudice and judgment because I walked in, and then you say, man, I may not be perfect, I'm messed up, but these people, they really have a problem, right? and I was the same thing as they are, and
It's so
it's
crazy how the brain does this to you. And it's just so ridiculous of a notion, but it seems
yeah.
so incredibly logical in the moment, right?
Oh, that's what is so scary. Like when I really think through, like when we're talking or I'm reading the book again and thinking through, it's like, man, how did I get there? How? Because at the moment you justify your behavior, you justify your drinking because there is always a good reason, either because things are going great, celebrate, or someone was a jerk to you, or you're having a bad day. And at that moment, everything made sense. You live in an alternate reality, which is really hard for people to understand. And that's why I wanted to write this book, because if you're just looking from the outside, or if you don't know anyone, or if you haven't gone through, it's really very hard to comprehend because it's not logical.
Right.
It's not logical.
Yeah, and especially, I want to kind of focus on something that I find fascinating. What I find fascinating is, especially today, where everybody's on social media and everybody judges everybody immediately. So I look at you, you're a handsome guy, you're articulate, you're intelligent, you have a great job, you have a great family, you have everything that everybody else wants. And then everybody looks at you, I'm sure you live in a nice house, drive a nice car. It's like, he's so lucky. Oh my God, right? So that's the first thing. And we have to keep that up, right? You know, we all do it, right? I come in, oh, the Hotel Impossible guy, he's got to be this guy, he's got to be that guy. And that's what people judge me on. And if you know me, you know, that's part of who I am, but that's not, it's what I do. It's not who I am.
That's right.
And your drinking is what you did. It's not who you are. So that probably comes through in the book, and that comes through with just talking to you for a few minutes. However, this is the thing that I think really will help people. And that's why your book is so important, because you are notable. You do have a position to lose. You do have, you are in society in a position that is achieved by hard work and intelligence, and is thought of, and some people, of almost unachievable. And then you come and you're so vulnerable, because one of the words, my favorite word in the whole world for leaders, is vulnerability. If you're not vulnerable, you can't lead, okay? Because people will smell a rat. People will smell you're full of shit. And I love the fact that you're being vulnerable. However, how do you make that leap that when you walk into a convention, when you walk into the office after you write this book and you're exposed, what does that feel like?
Yeah, wow. Hey,
It's not one emotion either. It's got to be a lot of conflicting ones.
yeah. So it's really been a long journey. So on December, I'll be celebrating 10 years of sobriety, and
Congratulations.
thank you. And really took me really a long time, at least 7 years, to start opening up to some people, right? And then when I became 8 years sober, that was really when I opened up to publicly, and I said, "Hey, this is my journey." Not the book was out yet, but that's what I did, and to get to that point, really my sense of purpose became greater than my fear, my you know, my what could happen.
Okay, so hold on. So put a pin in that. Let's talk about that for a second. Your sense of purpose became bigger than your fear. So what does that mean, and when did that happen? Because that is I'm kind of going through a little bit of that myself right now in my life. It's like my sense of purpose to give back and to teach is becoming bigger than anything in my life. So that sense of purpose, bigger than the fear, that is so critically important to people. So break that down a little bit. What does that mean?
Yeah. Hey, so I think to your point, we all have our professional lives, we all have our images, we all have our egos, sense of pride, and that's something that I think, I don't know all of us, but a lot of us, and personally I've struggled my entire career. You know, it's like, hey, can I be Cesar here in this environment? Do I have to portray to be someone else? Do I have to behave? Can I say what I'm really thinking? So I think, you know, as I grew up professionally, also I think you become, you know, as you age and you get experience and you see things, what is truly important in life, I realize is like, listen, I'm living this life, and I don't want to look back when I'm whatever 70 or older and say that, hey, I didn't live a life that was representative of who I am and the impact that I want to have in this world. And I think that, you know, at that point, that's when I made it realize, is like, listen, I love my career, I love my job, and I hope that I have the opportunity to do this for a very long time. But to your point earlier, you know, it doesn't define who you are, right? It's a part of what you do, and it's a part how I contribute. And I didn't see that there was an issue with both, right? One doesn't exclude the other. And I thought, man, if I can help someone out there that may be going through something that I was going through, or have a loved one, or I can prevent a young version of myself, right? To see what could happen if you don't try to identify ways you can improve yourself. And then once I put it out there, I think the response was so positive. I'm certain there's people there that says, man, this guy's an idiot, or this guy's crazy, or but I didn't hear
Only
that.
Glenn says that. Only Glenn says that.
Yeah, but for an entirely different set of reasons. Yeah.
But another fascinating thing to me is, and because I'm sure there's people that have your struggle, and have not come out publicly. They're recovered, but they're afraid of the eyeballs. They're afraid of how their bosses and people around them will look. So, to me, did you have to subconsciously, maybe it wasn't even conscious, have to get to a certain level of success, have to financially get to a level where you know you were okay? Did you have to kind of get to a point where I'm in control? So if things do go a little sideways, I'm strong enough mentally and physically, but also I'm strong enough in my career, financially. We're set, we're good, we're in good shape. So now I can take that risk. Because this is one of the things I talk about a lot, is risk taking. When are you going to take that risk? So talk about that a little bit.
Wow, I never thought consciously about it. I guess you're right. I guess that definitely, right, is a part of that decision-making process, that I think you have that comfort level. And thanks for bringing that up, because, I also don't want to impose or make other people feel like that they have to do what I did, right? This was a decision that I made with myself, with my family, and we felt that alignment, that like, hey, hopefully this is going to be a positive experience and impacting all of our lives in every area. But to your point, if for some reason is not positive, we're okay with it, because, right, I think
We're
that
safe. We're safe.
We're safe, and I'm at a peace, because I think that I'm doing this for a good reason, right? I want to help people. I want to your point, help us understand that, hey, just because someone looks like they have everything, or their life is flawless, everyone has something going on, right? It couldn't be as bad as I had, or so I want people to know, hey, you're not alone, right? You can always find hope and get help, or open up to a friend. So I think part of that, let's say if I was 10 years earlier in my journey of my life, probably, I don't know, would I open up like I have? Probably not.
And that's what I love about you opening up in the story, is because what you teach every day in your business is you take calculated risk in your business. I'm sure with your team.
See, we're green here. Hold on.
I think Jesus just entered the room, and and it's about risk taking, right? Every business decision, you take a calculated risk. People say to me, "You've taken a lot of risks." I say, "Well, if my wife didn't have health insurance, I wouldn't have taken risk, right? Because I don't want to give up health insurance when I was taking risks." So there's always like a safety that you have to have before you take that risk. And I find that fascinating, that someone in your position to be able to go out and take that risk of trying to help people, but you have to be safe first. And that's one of the things I want people to understand. Everybody, don't look at his journey and say, well, I should be doing this, or I should write a book. You have to come to that when you're safe.
Yeah.
Because you'll be open to criticism. You'll be open to people's opinions. And if you're safe with who you are and what you're doing and your family, then you can contribute. And I think some people will look at you and go, I should be more like him and I should do that, if it's right for you. But if it's not, keep it to yourself until you're ready.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So how are you able to deal with those difficult days now? What is your process? Because you said in your book, you had to reteach yourself basically every single habit and impulse you have in your life.
Yeah.
Really hard. And I think about that. And in general, I realize all of us out there have that thing that we have a real hard time dealing with, whatever it is, right? So how are you able to replace this in a healthy way without picking up another type of addiction? Like, I know a lot of people in AA just become chain smokers.
Yes. Yes.
And I mean, no disrespect to anybody, because this
Yeah.
shit is hard.
Yeah.
And outside of this, do you have an addictive personality?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very like all in or not. So
Yeah.
on almost
Right.
everything. So that, yeah. So yeah, I
How
have
do
that.
you cope?
Yeah. And so, yeah, so I think there's a couple of things, right? There's really 4 buckets that help me in my journey. One was kind of really ensure that I'm at least have that self honesty, right? To your comment early, you don't got to tell everyone what's going on in your life, right? You do what's right for you, but just be honest with yourself. And that's what helped me understand, like, when I know that I'm not at my best or I'm feeling off, I got to acknowledge that and make sure that I'm not pretending that, so I can go back, right? And default to old habits. So that is the first step. And then a couple of things that really helped me is being grateful, because during one thing, when I was in that, when I was drinking heavily, I was focusing on what I didn't have or what was wrong or what I was missing. And man, I have so much to to be thankful for. So even in a very bad day, I have so much that I can be grateful for.
But
So just
I think that's something that you were born with, to get back to that genetic part of it, because I have people very close into my life that see everything is what they have and what I'm missing out on, where I'm very fortunate that I was programmed with, I feel that gratitude that you're able to get out there now, and I don't worry about what anybody else has. There's got to be a lot of pressure on you to be worried about keeping up with everybody all the time. So it's pretty stressful.
yes, it is, right? And I think the moment that I realized that, to your point, it doesn't matter what other people have, right? It doesn't preclude me from get what I, right? They're not hurting me. So so embrace other people's successes too. And that is really 2 things. When I was drinking, I was very isolated, even though I was always around people. When it comes down, I didn't have deep friendship. I didn't have open, deep conversations, whatever, with a friend or even my wife. So just having that community, whatever that is for someone, just so you can have that health relationship and not suppress, right, emotions or things you're going through. Especially men, we tend to suppress a lot, right? Women, generally speaking, let it out a little bit more, and they're much healthier. That's why they live longer, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Somebody said something to me once, and not too long ago. Men have to stay on their white horse, and we're afraid to fall off our white horse. And that was a great thing for me to hear, because we all try to do that. And sometimes if you fall off the white horse, doesn't mean failure. It just means you don't have to be perfect all the time. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You continue.
No, and then the other piece is that I try to do things that are, of course, are healthy habits, right? I like everyone, I have things that sometimes I gotta say, ooh, I gotta stop whatever using social media as much. So there's always those things that I gotta keep an eye on. But just kind of like I do daily affirmations in the morning, make sure I start with the right mindset, do some exercise, walk, whatever, just kind of to stay that positive and do something that recharges you, volunteering, whatever.
So before we wrap up, I'm sorry. I know we're going to wrap up in a second, but just one question, and I'm sure Glenn has one. Give me, after you wrote the book, give me a moment. You don't have to tell me who or the circumstances. Was there a moment, the most powerful moment, of someone calling you or stopping you and saying, "You have no idea what your book did for me"?
Wow.
Or you coming out and saying this is really helped me?
Yeah.
Has that happened?
Yeah. Yeah, it has. Like, getting emotion. There's really three things that was really touching. One was a friend of mine many years that he's, I don't know, 90 something days sober, right? And I'm not taking the credit,
Right.
but it's part of, like, to your point, that he didn't know what I was going through, and just kind of learning and opening up, but help him have the strength to start the journey. So that was very touching. And then one that comes to mind as well is like, I don't know, about a month ago or so, someone that I met years ago in a reception, she reached out and said, Cesar, we met once, and my dad got cancer, and I had to quit my job and take care of him. And it was such a dark moment that I was about to relapse when I came across your book, and it helped me to stay, right. And she was 2 years sober. So that's like, whew, when it touches you and realizes, like, this is what make taking that risk worth, and sharing it's not that I made that possible, right? But it's just kind of that little influence where you can really see how that really impacted someone in a positive way.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the book is The Powers of Addiction: Finding Freedom in Acceptance and Recovery. Cesar, how can we get this book?
Oh, it's Amazon. So it sells on Amazon. So you can just type that, and my name probably will come up. Yeah, but happy to connect with anyone about it.
I'm very glad to know you. And if in one of the times we meet in person and you see a little Italian bald guy giving you a big hug, it's me. Because I think it's so, I don't have that problem. I never had that problem in my life. During COVID, I drank like everybody else, but it was never a thing. But there's a lot of vulnerabilities that we all have that we're afraid to share. And so it doesn't have to be addiction. It could be something else that you're not being true to yourself with. And if this helps somebody with whatever it is, whatever thing you're going through, it's well worth it. And I have it, in my office at home, and I will absolutely read it. And like I said, it's an absolute honor and a pleasure to know you. That we're in the same business is even a double honor. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Cesar. Appreciate it. Do us a favor. Just hang out in the back in the green room for a second while we wrap up. Thank you so much. All right, everybody, be sure you get this book. It's real quick and easy read. Pretty inspiring. I know I was inspired by it. And
did you say quick and easy because I said I was going to read it, so it wouldn't be too hard for
no, I was not even trying to deliver a message, on subconscious channel.
Does it have lots of pictures? It would have been
clever if I did do that.
Does it have lots of pictures?
Yeah, there are some photographs in it, but it's not a picture book, guys. You'll have to do some actual reading. But he writes it in a way that's really quick and informative. But listen, after you read the book, you're going to want to re-listen to the podcast. And the best way to do that is to get it to sign up for No Vacancy Live wherever you get your podcast. And of course, you can watch us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and all shows are housed at NoVacancyNews.com. Happy to report we got a full slate of shows this week, Anthony. So that's going to be pretty cool. I'm just trying to figure out who.
Well, you do that. I'm going to give you a compliment.
All right, tomorrow. We've got Michael Koch on tomorrow for the Michael Koch Group. And then we have Leanne Hardwood on. She's the SVP and Managing Director of Luxury and Lifestyle Division at IHG. Cesar probably knows her.
Oh, fantastic.
I feel like it's IHG week. We got then next week. Oh, Anthony, you've got to make sure you're on this show. We got Monty Bennett. He's the founder and chairman of Ashford Hospitality, with the parent company of Remington, and they own a bajillion assets. So that's going to be a not miss show, guys. Plus, we're going to be going on the road. We'll be in Atlantic City at the Hard Rock. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Remember, you've got one life, so blaze on and
be kind to yourself.
See you later.